I guess I'm not sure where to start. I want to start in a place of being real and being realistic, I guess. And that place is that I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge the very sad discovery, the very sad, not a discovery, but the press release of the 215 children that were found buried at the Kamloops residential school. And it's been a trying time for our family and our community, with my husband as a residential school survivor. And it's been triggering for us. And so I feel like we have been in mourning. And after that announcement, there was a lot of people who were reaching out to us, and were organizations saying, oh, we feel like we need to make a public statement. Can you help us? You know, what should we do? Should we do this or should we do that? And in the moment at that, especially when it was fresh, there were moments when I thought to myself, it's really hard for me to support the community when I really feel like I'm the one who needs to be supported in this moment. But that's the role that my husband and I have. And there were many people who wanted to use us as consultants on how they should respond. And then there were many people, including people who are in this circle today, who reached out to let us know that they were thinking about us. And that was really a beautiful thing to happen. And then we got a phone call, and someone from my husband's community asked him to join them on the next Monday. So he came and he told me they want me to go to the Brandon residential school site. And he said, will you come with me? And I said, yes, because I already had learned that I would no longer allow him to do these hard things without standing beside him and supporting him. I had once watched him on television while they were releasing the names of the children who had passed away at a ceremony in Gatineau, Quebec. And when I was sitting at home, I vowed that I would never do that again, that I would always make sure that I was there. So when he said yes, or when he asked me, I said yes. And then that morning came, we took the drive to Brandon, which is 2 hours away from here, to meet the community, his community of Sioux Valley, Dakota Oyate, at the Brandon, old site of the Brandon Residential School. And I asked him when we left, you know, in all these years, did you ever go back? And he said, no, I've never gone back. So this is our first time. I said, this is your first time going? And he said, yeah. So we went up, I guess it's up because it's on the top of a hill. And we drove over there. It took a couple hours, and then we drove up the hill to the site. And I didn't know what to expect because he never said a word about what it was. And I looked, and there was no buildings. And later I learned that they tore the building down in 1989, which was, I'm glad they did. And when we got there, all it is it's just a hill with a road that going through it. And it's all overgrown, and there's grass everywhere. And so when we got there, we saw there was a vehicle, and it had a whole bunch of orange hearts, huge orange hearts, 104. And people attached them to stakes, and they put them far apart, like 10 feet apart, all 104 on the top of the hill. And it took a while. And we then what they did was they went about installing solar lights shining at each of those hearts so that it could be seen from the road that travels up below the hill. A main road, actually, in Brandon, that everybody drives down that road. And we sat and we did what often happens when family and community gathers together. People started telling stories, and some of them were funny and some of them weren't funny, but they were still their stories. And then when that was complete, we looked down at the road, and there was this long procession of the Unity Riders that come from Sioux Valley. They were on horseback, and they were coming in a procession down. They had come rode all the way from Sioux Valley to this place, the old residential school. And we could see them at the bottom of the road coming. And everybody got ready, and we went and stood by the road, and they came up, and I could see those horses as they took those riders up the hill. They were just drenched with sweat as it was hot. It was like a 30 degrees day with the sun shining. And when those riders came up and got to the top of the hill, they went in a circle like 4 times. And some were making that, that war sound, that, I guess, hoop, they would call it. And some of the women were doing that song, that sound that we do at Sundance. La, 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 la. We have some Sundancers here, so they know what I'm talking about. And then when that was finished, they got off their horses, and the leader, he said some words, and he said, "Thank you for being here. When we left, we didn't know that anyone was going to meet us up here. Thank you for doing that." And he talked about how important it was for the riders to acknowledge the children. And then I noticed there was a handy van that had come from the care home in Sioux Valley, and it was full of people. I saw the door open, it was full of people, but there was this one elderly lady who got out, and she was not very mobile, and I don't know if she usually has a wheelchair or a walker, but boy, she was determined to get out of that van. And she got out, and she stood, and she leaned her back up against the van, and I was watching her. And I was kind of feeling bad for her because it's very hot, and she's obviously, elderly and has some mobility issues, but I was kind of close by, and I was keeping an eye on her. And when they asked, "Is there anyone else who wants to speak?" And she said, "Yeah, me." And she talked in her Dakota language. And she talked about that she had gone to the residential school, and that when she was there had been a terrible fire. And she told us about the event of the children, how terrified they were at the fire. And when she was finished, the day was complete, and we got back in our vehicles, and we made that long, somber drive back home. I share that with you because I want you to have a window into our life. For many Canadians across the country, the realization that children died at residential schools is new. But for our communities and our families, this is not something that is new, because we have been listening to our relatives tell us what happened when they were at the school, and the times that children would disappear and never come back, or the the times they witnessed children die at the school. So we knew that there was. For us, it isn't a waking up, it's a remembering. But for the rest of Canadians who are not aware of this history, it's a time for waking up. And Creator knows exactly how to wake people up at the perfect time and place. And children brings that protective human instinct out in us to appreciate the gravity of the revelations that are coming to light. I start with that because that is the truth. And that is our truth. And that's where our family has been standing in these weeks. And when we come together as a circle of people from different nations, this is an opportunity for us to learn about those things, but also start looking at where we're the next steps that we're going to take, the next steps that we can journey together into the future that we want for our children and grandchildren and the generations to come.